My name is Vishesh Chandiok. I'm the CEO of Thornton in India. Wonderful to hear the 5 tranches announced by our Honorable Finance Minister behind the 20,000 crore overall economic relief package announced by our Honorable Prime Minister to make India self-reliant, the Atmanirbhar Bharat vision that the Prime Minister has laid out for India. I think overseas listing by Indian companies is quite central to that vision. Now let's take a step back. About 15 years ago, 2005-06 is when RBI for the first time announced that you could not list overseas before you listed in India. And I think there were 2 Indian companies that by then had already filed or were very near listing. So they were grandfathered, Noida Toll Bridge Company and GECL. Other than that, there was a long list of Indian companies that were hoping to raise capital from overseas. And that time the thinking really was, why should companies list overseas before they accessed markets domestically? That these would be fraudulent companies. These would be companies that should be Indian companies and therefore stay Indian, stay at home, let's tie them down. That really seemed to be the thinking that whichever way it was, whether they were companies that should never be raising capital or companies that should remain Indian, let's try and stop them down. And really that proved to be the wrong approach if we look at it, because all that happened was it encouraged Indian companies to offshore their holding. So it tried to stop Indian companies from going overseas and stay Indian, but it resulted only in Indian companies setting up a top co. And we helped many Indian companies do that. Transfer their shareholding to that topco and that list that topco on AIM, NYSE, NASDAQ, SGX, TSX, all those markets is where Indian companies listed in that period. About 50 Indian companies, still listed on overseas markets. And this thinking that why should Indian companies not access Indian markets first? Really, there are those markets overseas that have built their brand around something distinctive. The TSX around things that are extracted from the ground, oil and gas, metals, minerals, NASDAQ, and similar markets on high-tech growth companies. Same with AIM and SGX. And therefore, just this thinking that why should you not first list in India? Those markets are not going to allow listings unless somebody was well suited and appropriate. I think it's a very positive move. It is a move that will actually only help Indian companies remain Indian. And it's very much aligned to that self-reliant India, Atmanirbhar Bharat theme that remain local, but think global. Indian companies that are global in their mindset, global in their operations, or indeed are in a sector that is not well understood by domestic market investors would find this a really beneficial step to raising capital. And I really feel that by 2025, as India still aspires for that 5 trillion economy goal, we can up our number from the about 50 Indian companies that are currently listed on overseas markets to perhaps as much as 500.